Action. Welcome to another incredible episode of the Action Podcast. We have Paul's Old Ass Movie Classics. I'm changing the name up, guys. I'm going with Old Ass Movie Classics. I think I like that. It's catchy.
Nice ring to it.
It's got a nice ring to it. It's classy. But today we're going to talk. First of all, I have my buddy Drew here, Drew Stewart. He's
Hello,
my
everyone.
partner in crime here on this old movie classic podcast. And today's movie, we have Thunderbolt and Lightfoot from 1974. You can watch this movie now on Amazon Prime. This movie is directed by Michael Cimino, who directed The Deer Hunter, his most famous film, which won several Oscars. And then another film that was considered was the biggest production of all time at the time, and then the biggest disaster as well, which we'll eventually watch. But Heaven's Gate, it's a Western based on a city, I believe, or a town in, I want to say like North Dakota, South Dakota. But yeah, he also wrote this movie, Michael Cimino did. And this movie, of course, stars Clint Eastwood, Jeff Bridges, and George Kennedy. For those who don't know George Kennedy, he definitely was a character actor, did a lot of good things. But our age group might know him best from the Naked Gun series. He
Yep.
was Leslie Nielsen's captain, and he was hilarious and all that. But I loved him in this role. Very angry man. But the premise of this movie, of course, is with the help of an irreverent young sidekick, a bank robber gets his old gang back together to organize a daring new heist. So we're definitely on a robbery theme here lately. But this movie got a 7 on IMDb. Box office, this did 2.2. The budget was 2.2 million. It grossed 21 million. So a super success. That's 10x. And Drew, let's start with it. What was your favorite thing about this film?
Uh, this is an interesting film, and I can't wait to talk a little bit about it. The crazy thing for me, my favorite thing about this film is Clint Eastwood's smile. Um,
Yeah.
because he always plays like, and I'm a as big of a Clint Eastwood guy as there is, but he always plays kind of the hard guy, and like in the
Yeah.
westerns and everything, like almost never cracks a smile. Watching him have fun in this role with Jeff Bridges, who both I think probably in character, but also probably just because Jeff Bridges is so ridiculous that like he couldn't help himself certain times. Like the
Yeah.
scene in the car after the insane, like the guy with the rabbits in the trunk and all that, they're going
Yeah.
like, what is that? So he's like, get away from me, like in a way that all of us ever like did in our college dorm room with our friend, like, you know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
like Clint Eastwood, he never messes around like that. So I loved getting to see a little bit lighter side of Clint Eastwood. So that was the favorite part of the movie for me.
Yeah. I mean, mine's kind of similar. It would definitely be Jeff Bridges for that same kind of reason. I have not seen a ton of films. Now, have not seen all of Jeff Bridges' films, so I would definitely want to make that be known. But I love him though, so I don't want that to also say that I don't like him. But I haven't seen him this playful. I mean, he was reminding me very much of a Kurt Russell, and I love that. And then the dynamic between him and George Kennedy, who was just such a short temper and was just getting super frustrated with his antics. It was just, I mean, that was definitely for me just a big, great aspect of this film. Like you're saying, just the playfulness of this film while still kind of being serious in a way. Really like the tone of this film, and I definitely thought it worked. What do you think? Does this movie hold up? Sorry.
I think I think yes and no, which
Yeah.
is a bit of an equivocation.
Yeah.
Um, I think yes, from the standpoint, very 60s, 70s buddy movie theme to this, right?
Yeah.
And that has continued on into modern day. Like not I don't know that it's quite as big as it was then, like where it felt like one of these was kind of coming out once a year.
The
Uh,
80s are, I would definitely say, are the heyday of the action buddy. But this is probably one of the films that started. I don't know
yeah,
100%.
like Bonnie and Clyde's not necessarily a buddy movie, obviously, because it's a woman.
No.
I don't
No,
know.
because this is like the comedy, like Lethal Weapons, you know,
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop, even to an extent, the Trading Spaces, 48
Same
Hours.
place. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, even like Bad Boys to an extent, right? Like,
Oh, 100%.
so yeah, I think that for that reason, as being kind of like on the early end of this genre of buddy films, I think it set a tone, and I think we've seen some modern films I think that actually used quite a bit of elements from this. So I think in that sense it holds up. I think that Cimino, I think I'm a bigger Deer Hunter fan than you are. I
Yes.
really like Deer Hunter. It is not a it is a very imperfect movie in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but I really like and appreciate that movie
And did you
for
pronounce it
some.
Cimino?
What's that?
Did you
I
pronounce it?
want to say Cimino. I think it's Cimino. Maybe it's Cimino.
I would trust your. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's Cimino.
Okay, I'll
Um,
pronounce it like that then.
and so I, but what is interesting is for a lot of the reasons that I love the imperfections of Deer Hunter and some of the like indulgences that he takes for himself as a filmmaker, they didn't work for me quite as much in this movie. So for me,
Yeah.
like I felt like this movie was really disjointed, hard to follow. Part of that is user error. Part of that's my fault. Like I watched it in pieces. I didn't have the opportunity to sit and watch the whole thing all at once.
Same. Yeah. Same.
So it was kind of disjointed for me. But so yes and no. It was a little disjointed. I think a lot of the themes hold up, and what does hold up is like the cinematography and like his clear love of like of the environment and the atmospheric shots that he gets in his films of nature, and this sort of big sky country that these guys are in. I think
Yeah.
holds through.
Yeah. I pretty much exactly agree with you. I also thought this film was slightly disjointed. Definitely had a 70s filmmaker, style to it, but I think there's a lot of elements that work. Like I said, I thought these two gentlemen worked well. The story, I think, could have been more A plus B equals C, where it's like exactly what is happening in the next scene, versus a lot of times. And again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you don't know what's going to happen next, and so you're kind of just on this adventure, and you know that sometimes works for films.
Like
Um,
it was both cool, but also so weird that like prior to them doing the big heist, like they got jobs and
yeah,
like they were working. Like it's so, anyway, it was just interesting.
yeah. It was interesting. Uh, Contemporary comparison. What do you got?
To me, and part of it is like the through line of Jeff Bridges, but to me, I see a ton of similarities with Hell and High Water, which came out recently.
What, I thought about that one too, and that one's probably a better one than what I have, but
So for
I would
me,
agree with that,
like
especially
again,
because it's more
also
of the criminal element. Yeah,
yeah, like again, that film like super the environment plays a major like the area plays a major
Texas,
role in the
Oklahoma.
film, like
Yeah,
the West Texas oil fields, buddies, right? I mean, in this case, brother, like actual brothers, but like
yeah.
Chris Pine and oh, what's his name?
Ben
He's
Foster.
Ben Foster. He's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
love that
then
film, by the
and
way.
then it's a great film. And then the
Yeah.
bank heist, Jeff Bridges is again the through line. So for me, I just couldn't get Hell or High Water out of my mind.
No, I think yours is better than mine. I had Tango and Cash
Oh,
because, again, like I thought Kurt Russell the whole time with just how playful Jeff Bridges was. So I totally saw Kurt Russell in this the entire time. So Tango and
what's
Cash was
so
one.
fun? What's so
But
funny is I'm so bad at knowing modern actors because you and Pete watch so many more modern films than I do.
yeah,
But I swear your commitment to contemporary comparisons being from like the 80s or 90s
I know.
is like
Well, I have a second one. That's why I'm like, it's not really that contemporary because it's only like 10 years later or 15 years later from the
yeah.
film. But yeah, contemporary meaning just anything
I,
after this film. But
I no, I totally get you. I'm just
that's
giving you.
why I picked the second one. I picked the second one, which was Right Along, with
Oh, I
Kevin.
haven't seen. Have I seen
And
that one?
I don't know if you have or not, but
What
it's
who's in that?
Ice Cube and Kevin Hart.
Oh, I haven't seen that, but I
Kind
have
of,
to. Ice Cube.
yeah. It's a comedy, and kind of dealing with same type of personalities. Ice Cube is the kind of the hard ass and in that kind of role, and then Kevin Hart is just kind of, obviously very, very aloof and funny. And so, just dealing with, the antics between them two. So that was the only reason why I kind of thought that. I was trying to think of like maybe like a Rock and Kevin Hart film, but none of them really applied to this one. I mean, you can definitely do a Bad Boys because that kind of works too.
Yeah.
But again, these are all cop ones versus like these are thieves, and so I couldn't really. Again, like I like yours. Yours was really good, but
Okay.
yeah, I think if you combined all of ours together, again, this is a unique film in that sense.
For
Uh,
sure.
should this movie be remade today, and who should star in it?
So I've always said yes. I'm much less quick on the trigger to say yes on this one. And not because I didn't like it. It
Yeah,
is two of my favorite actors. I enjoyed the film. Like I said, it's a little disjointed. I'm just not sure what it's telling me, like what its
why? Like, what's
underlying
the point of
ethos.
doing it?
Yeah, like it's fun and it's an interesting thing and it's a classic buddy movie like that ends badly for at least one of, but I just am not sure like why I would need a modern version of this.
Yeah,
Uh, so I mean, it kind of kills the conversation for who would be in it, but like I'm not sure. Although I did think if I were gonna remake it and I'm struggling with Jeff Bridges' role a little bit, like maybe Holland. I was
Tom
thinking kind of,
Holland.
yeah, I was thinking he's not maybe not funny enough. Um,
I don't know. It's
but
pretty funny in Spider-Man, so
that's true.
I
Yeah,
could
so
I could see that
I
working.
feel like Holland could work.
I mean,
And I
even if it was him and Robert Downey Jr., because that worked, that worked in Spider-Man, Iron Man. So
Dude, Robert Downey Jr. would be great. I was gonna say maybe Jake Gyllenhaal as the more straight, funny man, like
okay,
Clint Eastwood, like a little bit more
yeah,
of a hard ass. But like, so I kind of had those two in mind. But I'm not sure it needs to be remade.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. To me, it would be all about the buddies, like so who you picked. So I had two different combinations you can go with. Again, The Rock and Kevin Hart. If they wanted to do a kind of a thief film where they're both kind of thieves, and again, I wouldn't do like a straight up remake of this. There'd be some things I would alter with it, but I think even adding the George Kennedy character and Jeffrey Lewis, father of Juliette Lewis, and he was also in Chips, who I love. I love him as an actor.
He was also in The Great Waldo Pepper, that was the first one we saw, right?
Yes, yes, he
Yeah.
was. Yeah. And so those are two excellent roles to add to again more comedy. So like again, if I wanted to do that sort of thing, I could come up with an idea with The Rock and Kevin Hart, make it kind of more based off of this versus like a straight up remake. Because again, there's some plot things I think can be cleaned up and tighter and make it more
I could
fun.
watch I could watch The Rock and Kevin Hart take out the recycling and it would be funny. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's yeah.
So that's kind of my point is, and because I agree with your ultimate premise of I don't know if I need to remake this exact film, but again, if I took elements of this film and kind of remade it with them being thieves and then they have the different background, like I could see something like that working. And then my other two would be John Krasinski and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
Kind of the same thing, two guys that have great rapport with each other. And so I would love to watch them on camera. And I'm just throwing a scenario with them that they're really not done a ton. You know what I mean? John Krasinski is obviously evolved into being, he's got the Jack Ryan series and he's done the 13 hours. And so, he definitely has that action hero type of role, Quiet Place. And then Ryan Reynolds, obviously, to be kind of like the mess up guy. He was like that in the Change Up, and he's definitely Deadpool even.
yeah.
Uh, that I mean Hugh Jackman too. You can even do a Hugh Jackman Ryan Reynolds.
I was just gonna say Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. I don't
Oh,
know if you've seen
yeah,
yeah, like because those two are buddies, like in real life. That could work.
yeah, yeah. That'd be great too. Again, we're just coming up with $1 million ideas here. But yeah, I think there's something here to remake. I just wouldn't be a straight up. So that's my thing. So awesome. So again, that's our movie for this week. Let's get into our top five Jeff Bridges films. Uh, my list is interesting, super interesting. There's a lot of films that people I'm gonna get probably berated for, but I'm okay with that. There's definitely some movies I haven't seen, which hurts him, but there's also some movies like, wow, that made your list. So I'm very curious to hear yours. But yeah, we'll do Snake and 5 through 1. What do you got for number 5?
And I'm super interested to hear yours with that tease. I went pretty chalky. One older one kind of middle of his career, and a lot more recent ones. Because for me, I feel like Bridges is has aged like fine wine. Like he's always been good, but I feel like his later work has
Is yeah,
been amazing.
I'm totally with you.
Has been amazing. Like one of those actors that just kept getting better and better.
Yeah,
Um,
he's one of my
so
favorite actors right now.
oh, but yeah, both of these. Yeah. Anyway, I would hang out with these two forever. Anyway,
Oh yeah,
number five, a modern remake from two of my favorite filmmakers. Um, we just watched a John Wayne movie, so a modern remake on True Grit. And his role as Rooster Cockburn was he did a phenomenal job. That was
phenomenal.
a great film. He was amazing. So could have been higher on the list, but I put that at number five.
Interesting. Okay. My number 5, and I haven't seen this in probably a solid 30 plus years, but I remember we're just watching it as a ton of a kid, tons of time when I was a kid. I mean, we definitely had the VHS
I know what you're gonna say.
Starman.
Oh, no. I was gonna guess something else.
Okay.
Starman. Nice. So that
Yeah.
like go back to your childhood. This is a
Yeah, 100%.
conscious one.
And I couldn't tell you exactly why it made it so good. Like I want to watch that movie again, to be honest, because I just remember absolutely loving that movie, but I couldn't tell you what that movie's about right now. Like if you asked me, Paul,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. But I absolutely loved that film growing up. We watched it a ton, and I just remember like being pretty powerful. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I had to give him props for that because that one shaped more than probably the one you were thinking of,
Okay.
which was
So
Tron. I'm assuming you were thinking Tron.
that Tron was what I was gonna say. That's what I was
Yeah,
gonna.
you know what? I was never a huge Tron guy. Like I liked
Me,
it, but
me
it
neither.
wasn't.
I thought with your tease, I
Yeah,
thought maybe it was gonna be that.
I was never. I don't dislike Tron, but I'm not like in love with Tron. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Because I
totally.
never watched even the new one. I never even watched that one. So then, and my number 4, I got to give props to this film. Like I said, this was such a different role for him that I've seen him, and so just to see him really play, I thought was incredible. And so I want to give props to, obviously, again, I think that's a lot of it was his personality, but just the fact that they let him play Michael Cimino, allowed him just to play and be loose and fun. I thought he executed immensely in that. So I want to give props to that movie. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it on here. I thought he was great in this. There was times where like I think I was with George Kennedy where I wanted to murder him because he could be a little bit like
Yeah.
if I was in that car at some of those points, like oh my God. But
I was
he,
cracking up the whole time because I
yeah,
do stuff like that all the time. Like
he's just
it's a serious
irascible.
moment, I'll throw a joke out there, and
Yeah.
people are like, "Dude, what are you doing?"
And he's like, there's so a movie that I'm gonna talk about later, but like there's a part of him where like you see different pieces of him in later films in this film, like catchphrases and things that like just become synonymous with Jeff Bridges. It's like just
Yeah,
makes me think is he's just being him always.
yeah,
Number four for me, I talked about it earlier, also could be higher. More because he's not like the main. I mean, he's a very heavy co-star in this, but Hell or High Water, which I loved, and
yeah. I want to include that one. Spoiler alert, I didn't
just
include it in mine, but I
he's
really want There's another film that I didn't include that I hated leaving it off, but
yeah.
it's just the movie is I just don't put the movie synonymous with him. It's like it's not his movie, so that's why I left it off. Versus the other films on mine, he's synonymous with them.
I
So
hear you in that it's I struggled with that a little bit, but enough of my favorite parts of that movie are with him,
yeah,
and specifically speaking of buddies, with his fellow cop, like they're busting each other's chops the whole time,
yeah.
cracks me up. And the scene in the diner when the two of them go in and order steaks from that old woman
Oh yeah, it's
is
great.
one of the best scenes in the last 10 years in film.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm again a huge fan. I
yeah,
loved him in that role.
yeah.
Yeah, there's multiple films that I left off that fit to that degree. So
So going all the way back to early on in his career, I feel like I've talked about this in one of our maybe not ours, but one of the longer movie podcasts. The Last Picture Show.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I have to
Frank,
see that. I don't think I finished that one.
yeah, it's great. Larry McMurtry is one of my favorite authors. It's a throwback. Sybil Shepherd is amazing in it.
Yeah. I think I
Cloris,
started it and haven't
Cloris, Cloris Leachman, like a young Cloris Leachman,
yeah.
amazing. Um, Slice of life, West Texas town, coming of age story.
Yeah.
A failing West Texas town before Hell or High Water. Like,
We would watch it on this podcast if you hadn't already seen it. So I'm just gonna have to watch it on my own.
yeah,
But
that's my fault. Anyway, Last Picture Show, number
awesome.
three.
My number three, this might be a shock to a few people, but again, a kind of a different role in this, I think really set the course for him in this second career. And the movie's Iron Man, where he plays, you know, basically the villain in that film.
Yeah,
And don't quote me on this. It's his first major film where he was a villain. I know he may have been some other ones, but I really loved him as the villain in this one. Obviously, he doesn't start as the villain, or at least you don't think he is, and then really that transformation to really being this powerful, kind of hungry, power hungry individual. And I think a lot of that characteristics carry into a lot of the different roles that he ends up being. And so I absolutely loved him in Iron Man. I thought he was a great villain. Didn't really necessarily like the machine so much, but his acting
yeah,
before all the final scene, I think that's like the only negative, because I love Iron Man. That's one of my favorite films,
yeah,
especially superhero films. I love it. And again, I think he's a big part of it because he's an excellent, villain up into when he's in the
yeah.
monstrosity of CGI. But
Right.
and then my number two film is again probably a shocker to many, but this was one of my sneaky good films of the 90s. And he just goes toe to toe with Tommy Lee Jones in this movie. It's in Boston, and one of my favorite scenes is at the end where it's the Boston Pops playing that famous song and the fireworks are going, but it's blown away. And this is like kind of in the height of him being the protagonist
Yeah,
and really being the star of the films, action movie, all that stuff. But I just absolutely loved him in that film. One of my probably first real introductions to him as an actor while I'm cognizant, if that makes sense. So like I knew him in
totally.
Starman, but if you were like, who was in Starman when I was a kid, I wouldn't have told you. But
Right.
when I was aware that like this was his first real film in my head.
That's cool. And that is a good one. I only saw it once and I saw it back then, so I need to revisit that. I do remember liking that movie a lot. Was he also in Arlington Road
I don't know if I
with
ever saw that movie.
Tim Robbins? Anyway,
I know I feel like I saw that movie, but that's another movie I can probably need to see again. I remember it being decent, I think.
I think it was pretty good, and I think he might have
Yeah,
been a bad guy
I
in
would
that.
want to see that again. I
I could
couldn't tell
also
you
be
about
totally
that
making
film.
it. Um, your list is I props to you. This is a Paul special. This is
All over the map on
I
my list.
I like it. I'm like I said, I'm going with greatest hits, but for me, because anyway,
I already know what your number one's going to be, but go ahead.
I don't know if you do. My
I know
number
you're. Then I know you're number two. Go ahead.
number two, I know. I really vacillated between these two. Um, I easily could have been my number one. It's the column 1A and 1B. I'm gonna go number two is Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
And it could have been my number one. Probably should
that's
be
gonna
my
be number one for 90% of people's list.
totally. And obviously he's the dude. It's become it is I what I don't want is sort of like the crazy subculture and memes and the mania that has come out of this to diminish what is an amazing film and an amazing performance from him.
Yeah,
Him, like him, John Goodman, and Steve Buscemi in that movie. And I mean, you name it. John Turturro, Philip Seymour Hoffman, they're all incredible. But
that's not the bowling movie, right?
that is the bowling movie. I
Is
can't believe
Woody
you asked
Harrelson
that
in this
question.
one too?
No, dude.
What's the one with Woody Harrelson?
With Jeff Bridges? Oh, no, you're thinking Kingpin.
I am thinking Kingpin.
That's Farrelly Brothers with Bill Murray and Woody Harrelson, which is a great movie. One
I
of the
gotta watch both of them again, to be honest, because this is why, spoiler alert, Big Lebowski didn't make my list. Is I feel like it was the Big Lebowski is the one I watched in college,
Have you
and
not seen it since then?
I don't think so.
You have Paul,
But I
please.
didn't.
I
It's one
give
of the few movies I walked out in the theater, and I just like it didn't resonate with me. But again,
try it again.
I
I,
need to probably watch it again. I think I have a more sophisticated taste now, and
and I
but
and I
everybody
feel
loves
like
it except for me. Like I know I'm like the and everyone's like, "How do you not like this?" It's like totally your humor, and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't.
you're an outlier for sure, but I'd give it another shot. And
I'll give it another."
It's the Coens. It's a neo noir. Like that's the thing. Like a lot of like it lost in all of the comedy and ridiculousness is it's like a modern day LA noir.
Yeah,
Um, good. Ben Buscemi is amazing. He is. I mean, he's as good as it gets. Julianne Moore. So I check it out. Big Lebowski.
yeah,
It is the first film. So I liked movies. Like I loved Star Wars growing up and like all this kind of stuff. Big Lebowski is the first film I think that made me fall in love with movies. Um,
oh,
in college, like watching it over and over again, dissecting. It was my entry into other Coen Brothers films, and then once I kind of found the Coens, I was just like all in on filmmaking and movies, and so
almost go. I mean, Star Wars is probably the easy answer. I'd probably have to go Raiders Lost Ark is
yeah.
that for
For
me.
me, I wasn't allowed to watch that because of I remember why like too violent when I was
The
little.
Golden
So
Isle.
it was for me, it was the Last Crusade was the first one I got to see in the theaters,
Yeah.
but same Indiana Jones, all those. Number one, could have been like I said, could have been the Big Lebowski. In part, it's a newer one. It's funny, it's tender, it's astonishing. His acting and the fact that he sings in it, it's crazy hard.
I need to see that movie. I because I love the director. The director did Hostels, and I
Yeah,
love that movie. And
you haven't
he
seen
did
it?
another movie too that I like. Scott Cooper, right, is the director.
Yeah, you haven't seen it?
Now, I haven't seen Crazy Heart, but I've been wanting to see it. I heard it's amazing.
Paul, it's so good.
Yeah,
It's astonishing, and he's such an amazing singer in it. Like
yeah. It's
Colin
very
Farrell,
much like A Star Is Born.
yeah, but before
Before. Yeah,
Colin Farrell is so off type for Colin Farrell.
yeah.
Maggie
I'm gonna watch that. I'm
Gyllenhaal,
gonna put that on my list. I'm gonna move that up.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, and Sneaky, very under the radar because he doesn't have a ton of screen time. One of Robert Duvall's best roles.
Yeah, I love Robert Ball too.
Yeah. So, Crazy Heart is my number one.
That's a good call. Again, that was one like I just out of reputation I wanted to put it on there
Yeah.
and know I'm gonna like it once I watch it. I just haven't watched it yet, but
Yeah. You're in for a treat.
yeah, I look forward to it. Well, my number one is you've already mentioned it, but again, this is one of my favorite films, and I think what makes the role that much greater is, John Wayne won an Oscar for the original role, and I believe he either won it or got nominated, but it's one of the first times in film history where a second actor got nominated for the same role.
Yeah.
And to be able to basically not eliminate a legend because he didn't eliminate John Wayne in that role because John Wayne was excellent.
But to
But
completely repurpose it and make it his own.
yeah, I think it's one of just the hardest thing to do. Like, Timothy Chalamet is basically dealing with that with like Wonka, right? Johnny
Right.
Depp also as well had to deal with that, uh, dealing with Gene Wilder's character. But it's just one of the hardest things to do, and he knocked it out of the park. He made it such an original character and still had the essence of the character in a way. So it's just an amazing interpretation, and I loved everything about the performance. And again, like you were talking about earlier, this solidified that Jeff Bridges has a whole career ahead of him, and he's nowhere near done. Kind of like Clint Eastwood, like Clint Eastwood has gone through many iterations of himself, and he started acting late. I think he was late 30s when he really
Yeah.
had his first role, but you know, just for him to have such an impact in a film, and again, not it's not even, it doesn't even feel like him now. so many characters are kind of based off him. And but yeah, that's my number one. And I definitely have some shout outs too. If you want to give a couple shout outs.
Um, I was not prepared for that.
Oh,
I
then
can't.
I'll just tell you
Yeah,
mine.
please go.
Uh, so there's a couple films I just love him in, but Only the Brave, real small role, but again, he just fits exactly what they needed. And real, kind of just again, this old timer leadership. And he's with Josh Brolin in many of his scenes, and it's just awesome. And Only the Brave is one of my favorite films, but it was just such a treat to have him in that role. It wasn't a big role for him,
Yeah.
but he was excellent in it. And again, such a powerful film. And so that was a treat. I wanted to put that one in there, but again, I couldn't fit that in. And then you already mentioned Big Lebowski. I want to give him credit. Crazy Heart, of course. And then Tron, obviously, is maybe one of his more popular roles. Is just something again. I probably need to watch those again to really appreciate and get them on my list. And then Seabiscuit. I loved him in Seabiscuit. And again, he wasn't the hugest star in that film, and so I liked him more in these other roles versus Seabiscuit, but I love him in Seabiscuit, and wanted to give that a shout out.
So he was in Arlington Road. I just checked it, and I
Yeah,
did really like that film, but I do need to go back and watch it. But I remember he freaked me
same.
out.
Yeah, I feel like that was a really interesting film.
Yeah, he did good, and he freaked me out. And then you mentioned my other one, Seabiscuit is not. I am not ashamed to say Seabiscuit is like one of my top 10 favorite films of all time.
It is so well crafted. Like
It's
it,
so good. It's
yeah.
so good,
My
and
favorite
it's
cinematographers, the DP on that one, John Schwartzman. He's excellent in that. Yeah,
I
no,
love it. Well, and one of the great parts about that movie is Elizabeth Banks's character. Like she's so against type. Like she never really played anything quite like that before, and she's great.
yeah,
But him as the dad, and then the grieving father, and like how it changed his entire like perspective, and then obviously sort of like pseudo adopts Red's character. I love Seabiscuit. So shout out Seabiscuit, shout out Jeff Bridges. And I agree with you. A little bit more understated, but he plays the like tormented
yeah.
rich guy really well.
Yeah, and another film I'd give a shout out to is Wild Bill. I don't think the film is that amazing, but he was an excellent Wild Bill. I mean, he's literally got everything you want for a Wild Bill type of character.
Yeah.
And the other one was where'd
You
it
see
go?
Fisher King was good.
I never saw that, but that's probably another one I need to watch. Um, it's in between right around here. Well, he's in Heaven's Gate, like we talked about. So, still super curious to see that one. Oh, Tucker, Man of His Dreams. That was me and Pete watched that all the time,
I
and
don't think I've seen
he
that
was
one.
he was excellent in that one. Again, the movie is probably whatever, but I thought he nailed the role in that one. So
Yeah.
definitely check it out. All right, cool. Well, that's gonna wrap us up for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully, you're able to see these movies as well. Please comment below with your review if you liked it. You can answer the same questions that we ask as well. But we'd love to hear what you people are thinking about these movies as well. And
What are they gonna watch with us next week?
we got a treat. I think we have a treat. So I wanted to go back to Netflix because most people have Netflix, and again, I want to make sure these are films that most people can watch. And so on Netflix, I found a film called Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. It's from 1974, and it's directed by Martin Scorsese. I had no idea. I've never even heard of this film. However,
Me
this
neither.
this movie helped build the show Alice, and I think many people may have heard that. And so there are a few stars in this one: Ellen Burstyn, Chris Christopherson, Harvey Keitel, Jodie Foster. So I believe this is obviously gonna this occurred after Taxi Driver because I know Jodie Foster that was like her first role. So I'm kind of curious, kind of excited to see this one, and yeah, make sure you tune in for that one, and we'll we'll be reviewing that one. And so that'll come out next week. And yeah, Drew, good luck to the Lions this weekend.
Let's go Lions.
Yeah, we got the Bucks coming up this weekend. So make sure you guys check that out. Go Lions on our road to the Super Bowl. And with that, Drew, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.